Hi there. So it's the middle of winter here in New Zealand, July, August, and even in New Zealand it's kind of a bit too cold and wet for track days. So it's a good opportunity to take some time off and reassess where we can make some adjustments to the bike in readiness for the sunny weather. Now, I don't have access to the Kawasaki racing team or a contact in the Kawasaki factory in Japan, but there are a few upgrades that we can make, and there sure as shit be made in a factory somewhere. So I'm calling this sequence the Kawasaki factory upgrade. So let's have a look at the areas where we can usefully make some modifications. So I've got my Kawasaki workshop manual here, so let's have a look. So there's the front brakes, that's the master cylinder cables and calipers. There's the front suspension, the rear suspension, the chains and sprockets, the exhaust, the ECU and the wheels. So I make that seven areas where we can make some improvements. And no, it doesn't make any difference if you look at it upside down. So 7 areas for the Kawasaki winter factory upgrade regime. So let's make a start. I wasn't unhappy with the exhaust until I had a look on the HMF Performance website and found out that they make systems and mufflers mainly for farm bikes and quads. So I don't know if this is an old system that's been deleted, or it's a homemade effort. Hard to tell. But anyway, so I looked around in the net for replacements, and because it's a Generation 2 ZX10, there are very few systems still in manufacture. In fact, the only one was Delcovic UK. So I rang them to ask if they had any systems off the shelf or they need to be made to order. They said it was off the shelf ready for immediate dispatch. So I ordered it online on the Thursday, and unbelievably it arrived from the UK to New Zealand the following Monday, 5 days. So top marks for Delcovic. So we're going to remove this system from the back down to this collector box under here. And I knew that this was going to be the hardest part, is these 6 fasteners which fasten the old headers onto the new system. So I just took these to my local car repair shop and asked them to loosen and remove them for me, and just replace it with these stainless ones meantime. So let's get on with that now. Okay, so let's see what we've got in the box from Delcovic UK. So this must be one carbon can. And we've got the other parts here. See if I can lay them out in order. I think maybe I'll cut the camera and unpack everything and then take it from there. Well, that seems to be the logical way for it to fit together. There's only one way to find out. I forgot that these cans have got a baffle in them which you have to remove if you don't want to use it. There, one baffle moved, and now we've got a straight through system. So I'm just fitting it together loosely now. Because it's not a one-piece system, there's a bit of jiggling to be done. So I'm just fitting it together loosely and just kind of sizing it all up before I seal it all up with silicone grease and then tighten up the hose clips. Next job is chain and sprockets. I have changed the sprockets on the bike, and it's got a standard size sprocket on the rear, a new sprocket, and a -2 teeth on the front for greater acceleration. Still, I think the original chain, and it's also 525 gauge, so we're going to reduce it to 520 gauge for the track, but keep the same gearing because I'm happy with the gearing. So it's a 15 tooth front, I think it's a 40 tooth rear. So we're going to have to remove this cover, loosen but not remove the front sprocket, drill out the links, remove the chain, remove the rear wheel, replace the sprocket, remove the front sprocket, replace the front sprocket, replace the wheel. We're going to have to cut the new chain to length because it's oversized as it's supplied, and then fit it to the bike. I've had to invest in two tools for this bit of the project, a chain link splitter and riveter, and also a angle grinder to grind out the links. Okay, let's get on with it. So that's what they look like having been ground down. So now I've got to get the riveting tool out and push those rivets out the other side. Go. One chain. Onwards and upwards. So while we've got the chain off, we can go ahead and replace this sprocket, I think. So it's only a question of removing the nut, that little plate, and then the sprocket will come off. You can actually see the difference in gauge between the 525, the old one, and the 520, which is a new one. And it will go in with the shoulder. There's a shoulder there to compensate for the fact that it's actually narrower, to keep the adjustment correct for the chain, so it'll go back on with the shoulder in. But I'll give that a clean up. Bit manky. So I've lined up the links at one end, and then this should mean the removal of that rivet there will give me 108. I better count and double check. Now if I have miscalculated or got this wrong somehow, you're going to hear me shouting and swearing from Auckland to Aberdeen. I can tell you. Next thing is get this back wheel off so we can change this. Oh, feely that one. So we can change this rear sprocket for the 40 tooth 520 pitch rear sprocket. So that is a new sprocket on. We just need to tighten the bolts to the correct torque setting, which is 59 Newton meters. So I'm in the process of tightening on this plate for this one here. I just want to make sure that I don't over tighten, because if you over tighten you're going to bind the chain. If you don't tighten enough, then there's not going to be enough to actually secure those rivets. So I'm just going to measure. So I've still got a bit to go. With a couple of mil should be about right. So now we've got to repeat the process for these rivet heads. And we've got to spread the link so that it retains the head, and that seems about right. So let's just take another measurement. Seems good. So that's the new sprocket, new chain, rear sprocket, all on 520 chain conversion. What I've learned is make sure you've got all the right tools. Take your time, measure a lot, stop and measure a lot, and there's so much information on YouTube that you can find instructional videos there that will tell you what to do and keep you right. So, you know, the old adage goes, if I can do it, anyone can do it. So, on to the next stage of the factory upgrades. So today we're removing the front forks to send them off down to Kiwi Suspension Solutions for modification. I'm just going to make a photographic record of what this looks like so that when it comes to go back together again, I can see where everything goes. But so far, whoever put the forks back in before did a very nice job, because they weren't. It wasn't easy to loosen the clamps at all. So what they say is with a twisting motion, remove the fork. There we go, one done. So the forks have happily returned from Kiwi Suspension Solutions. Just got to get them back onto the bike now, and remembering that I was going to increase the drop through the top yoke from 6mm to 1cm, but the installation is just a reversal of removal. Just need to get the torque settings right. Let's give it a go. That's the forks in but not tightened, and it near as damn it seems to be about right. I think so, bang on. We can tighten them up now. Okay, so the front end is back together and the front suspension factory upgrade is complete. So the next job on the list is removing and replacing the shock absorber. The hard part is not replacing the shock absorber because it's actually only held on with 3 bolts. The hard part is accessing it and removing it. So to access it, we've got to remove the belly pan. And coming on the other side, you have to remove this foot peg, remove that heat shield, remove the center section of the exhaust, then replace that foot peg, put the bike down onto these axle stands and remove the rear wheel so that the swing arm is free, and then we can access the shock absorber via the 3 bolts. Remove the old one, replace it with the new one, and then reverse the process to reassemble everything. It's actually quite time consuming, but not a terribly technical exercise. So there we go, so the middle section of the exhaust is removed. That exhaust heat plate is removed. There's the end of the exhaust section. Here's where we've got to get into the shock absorber. And the bike is now supported on these axle stands rather than the swing arm, because the rear wheel is out. Now I have taken the shock absorber out before because I sent it down to Kiwi Suspension Services to get the spring changed. And here's my notes from previous occasion to make sure that to get the nuts and the bolts out and then back in the correct order. I also recall that the manual says remove the shock absorber downwards, but in terms of what it said on YouTube, it comes up easier. It comes out easier raising it up and on the exhaust side. But anyway, we'll go about removing, loosening the nuts and bolts now, and then removing the shock. So there you have the original shock, serviced by Leroy when he was at Tony Rees. So it's the original shock body with an Öhlins spring come out from in there. So let's dig out the new item and see how it's going to fit. I'm actually a bit nervous because aside from the purchase of the bike itself, this is easily the single most expensive item I've ever purchased for the bike, and it is a thing, it is a work of great beauty. I just want to see how the lengths compare before I slot it in, but wow, it is a gorgeous looking piece of engineering, is it not? It certainly is. So there it's in. We just need to torque everything up and then put everything else back together again. So the next factory upgrade was to address the ECU. When I bought the bike, the previous owner who had bought it from the guy that constructed the race bike said that the ECU had been flashed and the bike dynoed, but he had no evidence of that. I phoned up the people that had dynoed it, and they said they'd mislaid all their records or destroyed their records, so they didn't know. So I just wanted a diagnostic done on the ECU to find out if it had been flashed or not. I phoned up Motorcycle Doctor in Auckland, and they said they needed the whole bike, which I didn't understand to be the case when I just wanted a diagnostic run. So I phoned up in Flash Tune NZ, and they said, yeah, just give us the ECU, we'll run a diagnostic and tell you what's what. So that's what I did. And they informed me that the ECU had been flashed, but there's a couple of things they could improve. The rev limit hadn't been raised, and the factory imposed speed limit hadn't been removed. So they could do that, and they could tinker with the air fuel just to take account of the fact that it's got a K&N air filter fitted down a straight through exhaust system, so they could improve some of the settings. So I just took the ECU into them, they've done that, and here it is back now and just ready to be slotted back into the bike. So let's get on with that. So that's ECU back installed under the relays there, ECU there, just fits in this rubber boot and two connections. So we'll just secure it and then fire the bike up, and it should fire if everything's been done correctly. Next in the series of factory upgrades is the front brakes top end. So we're going to start off with the Brembo master cylinder and lever and an associated clutch lever, so they match. And we'll take a look at what the maintenance manual says about that. So there's the brake system off in one unit. The only question is whether this banjo bolt is going to fit in the new Brembo master cylinder, because this is a double banjo bolt because I've got double brake lines at the front. So let's find out if that's going to work or not. And the answer is quickly resolved that it's not. You'll see that's the supplied banjo bolt there, single banjo bolt there. This is the double banjo bolt that I'm going to use. So the thread's different, so the double banjo is not going to fit into the Brembo master cylinder. I need a different thread, but that's okay. We can go ahead and fit it, connect up as much as we can. We just need to order up a double banjo bolt with that thread, and I'll just get on to Coleman's and speak to Mark and he'll sort that out for me. So not the end of the world, bit of a delay, but these things happen. We can do as much as we can just now. As you can maybe see here, the Dymags have arrived. I've already fitted the tyre and the brake disc and fitted it to the bike front as well. So they just came recently. I just slapped them straight on. So the upgrade project is complete, and now we just need to go down to Taupo and give the whole thing a test, because we've changed a lot at the same time. Hopefully it's going to make a difference, but there's only one way to find out. Let's give it a go.